All right, John here again. So you're looking at a Z1 Turbo, a 2010 Z1 Turbo with obviously the hood missing. And the reason I'm making this video now, 10 years later in 2020 or 2021, is because I just kind of figured something out. But if you're, even if, who knows if these sleds are still out there. So this is kind of probably a moot point, but, making this video, the problem's probably solved. So I didn't know. All right, so I got to tell you a quick story. So the hood is over here, right? This is my actually the third hood, and as you can see down there, the two little prongs and the rubber mount, right? I'll show you over here that they get plugged into, the rubber mounts get plugged into here on both sides, right? Both sides have a rubber mount, and just snaps in, and those two prongs in the center kind of plug in. So when this sled was fairly new, a friend of mine, we swapped sleds. He came back and the hood was missing. And I thought and Stevie's a prankster, so I thought maybe he removed the hood because it's easy to do. It's just rubber mounts and, slide it out. I thought he was just pulling a prank, but, he stuck to his guns, and to this day, we don't know what happened to that hood. So fast forward maybe a few weeks, same season, few weeks later, of course, I got a new hood. And you got to get the stickers and all this business. And it's pretty pricey. So I'm going down a trail, bumpy trail, and the hood flies off and wings it right by me, right? So I duck, and well, I don't know if I ducked or flinched or whatever. It didn't hit me, but it went right over my head. I turn around and I watch my other friend run it completely over. So that's the third hood. And I'm going back quite a few years, but I think I figured out why or how they're coming off, but I'll get to that in a second. So I put the third hood on, and I'm like, I got to do something different here. So I made some hood pins, and I'll show you that in a second, but I'll show you why I think I finally figured it out 10 years later, why these hoods are flying off, even though that one didn't. I'll show you why. So I was doing some other moves here. So this is the rubber mount, right? And as you can see here, let me take it over here and show you more properly. So this side is missing, right? The hood mount, which this little, it just kind of snaps into that rubber thing, and it's got a screw. I didn't put that in there. It's got a screw through these tabs. You see these two tabs? They kind of just sit there, and as you can see, it's kind of really thin, flexible kind of material that was molded, and they just kind of slipped this over it, right? And just threw a self tapper through there, and that's how it got mounted. This one's still surviving, but what I did, as you can probably see here, I added some hood pins, and I'll show you what I did to remedy that. And this hood's been on there a long time now. I'm just doing some maintenance, so let me show you what I did. So trying to figure out where to put hood pins was kind of problematic, but I needed a way to strap this down, and what I came up with is this screw here is actually inverted. The original screws, whatever they were, 1/2 inch, they just kind of, bolted this headlamp to this plastic member here, and it was obviously inverted. The head would be up here, and it didn't protrude much down here. So I decided to invert. I bought some new, I think they're 1/4 inch 20, but bought some longer screws, inverted it, right? Sent it up this way, and it's got a washer here for support because it's all plastic, and I just double nutted it just to prevent it from spinning, because what I did was drilled holes in the, and that was kind of almost a, problematic. This stuff here, this remnants, is just a rubber washer that I had on there to just prevent from scratching, but that was from years ago. So I had drilled the two holes to accept, when you put the hood on, to accept the new, like a hood pin. And I originally had some just regular nuts, a nut and a washer, and that kind of looked like ass. And then I found these things at the hardware store that was a cap that goes over like a 1/4 inch 20 nut that had flames on it. That looked pretty cool. And they kind of wiggled off and lost them. So now I just use regular acorn nuts, and I'll show you when it's all put together, but just the acorn nuts. So this hood cannot go anywhere now. It would have to literally fall apart. So I guess it was just a bad design, and the reason I'm making this now is because when I found this part broken, I got to go online to see if this happened to anybody else, and lo and behold, yes. Of course, the threads from years ago, 2012, 13, 14, of hoods flying off, missing hoods, blah blah blah, and I didn't really get into if there was any fixes for it for what people did, but I'll show you what I did just in case you're this one dinosaur like me that hangs on to everything. But this particular hood has been on there for quite a few years now, and just using these hood pins, or makeshift hood pins, and I'll put the hood on and I'll show you how that operates. But and I've lost other things too, like if you notice this don't have the fangs coming down because this thing blew off one time. It's just a bad design. I think one of these fellas, which that looks like it's going to come off fairly soon, or maybe they're both loose, I don't know, but I've had to replace one of these, one of the louvers. Never lost a side panel. One of the forums I was on, the guy said his side panel fell off, which is incredible. But if you have one of these sleds, you'll know why. If you leave at least one of these rubbers off, this thing, might get some air under there and goodbye. Because they are kind of a fast sled. So if you're on here's what I'm thinking happened. If you're on an open lake and you're hauling ass, and maybe the rubbers kind of loosened up, or in my case, it just broke from vibration. But let's say they loosened up here and you got some air under there and it kind of wiggled this. You're not going to see any of this as you're riding. Then you get on a bumpy trail or something, it just wiggles its way, the rest of the way, and goodbye. It's like a kite. The thing just takes off and takes flight, and so I think that's what's happening. So let me put this hood on there, and I'll post this video just because it was always a mystery to me. Like, why is my hood falling off? There's no way it should fall off. The way it plugs in, I'll set the camera up and show you how it plugs in, and you would think, hell no, that can't fall off. But now that I looked up to see if, all I plugged in to Google is Arctic hood flying off, and stuff popped up for this particular machine. So you see this mount is still intact, right? And it's got the self-taper screw going in through the little tabs there. So this mount is still okay. I don't need the mounts because I'm using the hood pins, so I can literally get rid of this. But I do want to put the, I'm going to see if I can hot staple this back together. If it works, it works. It doesn't. But I still want the rubbers to go over this little piece here, just for, I guess, deadening it. Okay, so I don't know if this staple thing's going to work out. So I'm not exactly brand loyal, but this is the rubber mount, right? Not too bad, nice. And then to send this screw here, I don't know if it's especially made for that. It's a self-tapper, as you can see. It's got some kind of knurled thing here, and a Torx bit went right through, right? But look what it's going through. I mean, this is kind of, questionable. So this is what it's going through. These are basically like potato chips, really thin. I mean, if you could see the kerf on this, it is maybe a 32nd. They plug into here. So I'm still going to try to staple it, but that is kind of weak sauce there. As far as you're expecting this to hold, even snapping it onto the rubber mounts, this is really flimsy stuff here. I mean, here's a piece here, same thickness. This is just a support to, I guess, during the molding process. There's another one right here, but they're wicked flimsy. Like, and then they have a heavy-duty rubber mount that is supposedly hold a hood down, and then they have the audacity to send a self-tapper through, basically getting to, too close to the edges. And I don't know. It's not like I'm an engineer or designer, but that just seems like not a good way to go. All right, so this is the stapler, but I'm thinking because that stuff's so flimsy, I'm going to have to use these little tiny thin guys. And this is a flat staple. Let's see what I got here. There's some other ones. This is an 8, right? But I think that's just going to be a little too thick. So, but I do want a corner staple. This is a flat. So I got to look for what kind of staples I got there. I'm going to use the lesser ones. But because the thickness of the actual, molded, the hood is probably almost 3 times as thick as the actual flimsy, like you can see it right here. So I'm going to have to favor the hood, melt it into more of the hood and not this flimsy piece, and see how that works. Again, this is just for no reason, just to see if I can do it. Alright, let's try this puppy, huh? So I'm just going to try to melt it in on this corner and then just push it in, see what happens. Probably should be using high heat because it works faster, but there we go. So the 2 points are down into the thick stuff, but you just can't get all crazy and plow through that stuff. So let me let that cool a sec. See if these vice grips will release, and then I can attack with multiple staples, but I still have to leave this stupid little screw hole, for that other thing to come through. So let's see, I think that's enough time. Alright, so for this one I'm just going to use a regular wave staple, the thin ones, the 0.06, and just kind of plow that right in there, but you got to be careful, really careful that, you see, I don't like the way it's, so I think you can probably just maneuver this. Again, this is stainless, so it's pretty hard to bend. It just springs right back. Well, there we go. So I'm thinking right there, right? Plow that right into that. Again, I have to leave that hole there, but I'm thinking just, let's see what happens. Wait till it gets a little cherry red, and just plow it right in there. I'm kind of shaking, but because I'm just using one hand here. So you just let off the button there, and then when it cools, and that's that. Alright, so I went around everywhere, and I'm always impressed on how good this tool works. So this was questionable whether I was going to get this or not, but you can see where the flat staple starts to poke through because this stuff is so thin. But I gotta tell you, I mean, this stuff is pretty rigid, and I think it's going to work. And what I'm going to do is, after I clip all these little leads off, I'm going to put the rubber over it, and I'm also going to use outside corners on the rubber. Once that goes over it, I'm going to, because this stuff is way more thicker, I'm going to use the bigger staples and do corner staples on this rubber to this plastic, and that's going to hold for sure. I believe it's going to hold just the way it is now. Alright, so I clipped all the leads off, and this rubber has to go over this, and it does, wait a minute, is it that way? I think it's this way. It has to fit over this, but it was a tight fit getting this off of there. Or not a tight fit getting it off there, was broke, but the getting the fins out, these fins that I just get them out of there, was a tight squeeze. So I think or a tight fit, so I think I'm just gonna kind of lube this up. Maybe hopefully it'll squeeze over that. So I think it's this way. Let's see if this will slip into there without breaking these tabs off. I think I'm gold. Alright, so before I hot stapled the rubber to the thicker stuff, I'm just sending this big long ass self-telper down, and then I notice, look at this. This is cracked right here, so I'm just going to throw a few staples in there. I don't think this does much, this little piece, probably just for rigidity, but let's see if we can get this sucker, which is a mile long, through the hole that it was, and see, and then I'll try to pick this up by the rubbers. If it holds, it holds, but I am going to add the extra stuff anyways. I don't know who came up with this design. Hey, once we put the rubber over the little thin plastic things, let's send in like a lag screw that'll hold a house together. So again, I don't know who the hell came up with this. Obviously, it's not the best design. It's my third hood, but we're gonna set this down to where it was. It's tight. Actually, I just got a phone call, so I have to be somewhere else, but I'm going to pick this up by this rubber mount. And, almost dropped it. So I'm confident that this thing is going to do the trick. So I'm not going to add in the extra staples. Again, I don't need it because of the hood pin, so let me put this in right quick so I can end this video. Alright, let me see if I can get this thing out of here before I run out of battery or somebody else calls me. So that's the hood. We got our rubber mounts in that we just did. So unfortunately you gotta kind of wiggle this guy into its position. Yeah, see where I missed. You gotta kind of start down here, right? Force them two boogers in down there, and then where the mounts are, feel them. You kind of got to spread the mounts out. This whole hood operation is very problematic. And now my hood pins have to line up, and then it's just a matter of pushing it down, right? So that's the way the hood's supposed to go on, as far as without the hood pins. And then, as you can see clearly, if these broke off, this would be loose and bobbling around, and then air would get in probably through here somewhere and just lift this thing completely off. The one time it did break this windshield, it's not a windshield, it's just a little plastic guy, but the second time when it flew over my head didn't affect this, but it just came off. This is the third hood, and it's been on there for years, and this is all I do. Like I think I showed you earlier how to invert the screws, drill the holes, and these two acorn nuts. And if you're worried about scratching paint or whatever, add some rubber washers. But they're 7/16 nuts. About out of battery. And that's all. That's it. I tighten them down a little bit. You don't want to go too crazy until it doesn't flex anymore, so you know you're on the mounts there. And they're hand tight right now, and I give them like just an eighth of a turn more. Again, you can add some washers if you need to, if your holes didn't match up to hide everything, but mine match up good. They do look like I said, those Mercedes-Benz sprinklers or wipers for your headlamps. I don't know if you ever saw that. It was back in the 80s or something. But anyway, so that's all I got. Hopefully this, if you have a sled like this and you're still dealing with this and you have a missing hood and you happen to, I don't know, Google it and this video popped up, that's what's going on. The thing is just junk engineering. It's not a good design at all. And obviously sleds are different today, but they probably learned from their lessons. But I still have this sled, and I've had this hood for about 8 years now. So that was the fix. Those two guys there, the fix I just did today probably wouldn't have lasted long. Anyways, that's all I got. Thanks for watching.